So guys, lately I've been having, well, not lately, for a long time I've been having the pleasure of hearing very long lectures about what I used to be, what I used to allow, what I don't allow now. And half of that stuff is conjecture. Okay, let me explain this. This ain't gonna be long. I give you guys an example. I run across people half my age every day that I mistakenly believe that they could be, maybe in their 30s, and they're not. They're half my age. These people can be literally my children. And I have to remind myself not to be judging people on the standards of where I think they should be, or whether they should be where I am mentally, or somebody else that looks like them mentally. You got to let people grow into themselves. It doesn't take a lecture. You don't have to describe somebody's whole reality based on who they were and who they've grown into. It's called growth. It doesn't need a lecture. Let people come into themselves naturally, right? Organically. It doesn't need a lecture, especially from faceless YouTube videos. Doesn't make any sense. Let me tell you guys something about me 10, 15 years ago. First of all, I've been making YouTube videos for almost 9 years, right? And you can go back and look at videos of stuff that I was doing. And I did it because I was moving around. I was living in Vegas. I lived in Cambodia. I was in Chicago. I was in New York. I was moving. I was around. So I had decided to film myself doing certain things, talking to other people, because I knew one day people would go back and look at what I used to do. You have people thinking I was out in Vegas acting a fool. So I said, I'm gonna remember, my whole experiment was to be authentic for 8 or 9 years on YouTube, to see what I was gonna get. I was running my own experiment. I wasn't out here just being some sucker, letting people run over me. Of course, I approached every situation as a learning opportunity, but I also approached every situation uh, as being organically myself. And whatever situation that came into my reality, whether it was moving into the projects in Brooklyn, New York, or living in a one-bedroom apartment in Cambodia, I took the opportunity to film myself being organically myself. So some of these YouTube videos that I'm looking at, uh, it's describing somebody. It's like, I'll give you guys an example. Just, I don't want to be long with this. Of course, we grow, right? Of course, you're going to be different from when you was 30 than when you 40, right? And 40, 50, you change. It doesn't need a lecture to describe somebody's change. It's almost like, I feel like it's almost like people trying to make you feel ashamed of who you used to. It's called growth. That's what it's called. And by the way, I don't feel ashamed about anything I've done, because starting from the age of 30, I went out into this world on my own. I did things that nobody would do, especially some faceless person on YouTube. I did things that nobody does. I don't know anybody that does or even would do the things that I do and have done and still doing, you know. So I just have to put that out there. I don't, some of this stuff is just conjecture. You listen to it and you just like, this some faceless video. You don't even know me. But again, just close it out. If somebody had sat down and spoke to me at age, I don't even know, 32, 33 years old, if somebody had just sat down and had a conversation with me, not looking at what job I had, not looking at what environment I had, not looking at who I was texting, who I was calling. See, that's the problem with all this tech stuff. People think they know. You don't. If somebody had sat down with me at the age of 32, 33, you would have seen that I was way ahead of my time. But if you look on the outside, looking at somebody's text messages or phone calls, or who they talking to, or where they live, you're going to get it all misconstrued. We got geniuses living in the ghetto. Let's not be mistaken about this, man. I mean, It's like I got a little bit of contempt for people who just sit back in the background and you think you can judge somebody from what their environment is, or who they texting, or where they live. Man, unless you actually sit, I've said this before, and I'm gonna end this. Unless you sit down and actually have a man-to-man talk with somebody, you don't know jack shit about who you dealing with. And I have to remind myself that every single day.